I keep a journal regularly of all the work that I've done. When I've been down on the beach, I come back and write it up. Usually make some little drawing about the work that's done. The sort of continuity through the books means you can look back and see that you use those sort of forms before, and how you can develop them. So they have that function as well.
Fort Victoria Beach, 4th of July, 1995. I visited Fort Victoria Beach today. It's a beach which June and I regularly visit, and which has been the location and inspiration for my work for some time now. We were there by 7 a.m. There was an ebbing tide, and it was a pleasant, sunny day. I found 4 curved pieces of wood to continue with my 27th of June idea of the sculpture Celebration, Earth and Sea, Song of Time. It took some while, but we, that is June and I, eventually managed to set the pieces of wood up on a knoll of clay that I have used in the past. Building between the pairs of wood took several hours. I made a photographic record of the work when I had completed this stage. Height, 6 feet. Waited for the tide to come in around the base to take a few more photographs. By then the wind had picked up, and the 2 sides swayed or tremored, at times looking like 2 figures facing one another. 7th of July. Another long session on the beach. I was at Fort Victoria by 7:30 a.m, just past a low high tide with a clear sky clouding over. I've been thinking about this sculpture and its different forms a lot, and set about making another version of the sculpture I made on the 4th of July, having recovered the curved sticks I'd used again on 5th of July. I searched in the wood above the beach for a better force stick. I decided this time to place the sculpture in front of a group of branches and small trunks of trees which were half sunk and emerging from the clay, and using a small ridge of clay as a base. I tried to narrow the gap at the back of the form, but decided the back would be better filled in with finger markings running right across the interior, creating a good enclosed concave space. The initial placing of the form with the timbers and small tree trunks framing or threatening the sculpture made the photography difficult. This was further limited by a number of yachts sailing into view, and also because of my tiredness. With the sun coming out again, it's been a long, hot session. I returned in the evening hoping to catch the tide around it, but it was too late. The work was submerged. It had fallen on its back towards the sea. I rescued the timbers for another day. Fort Victoria, 30th October 1995. Round Tower Point by 8 a.m. It was near low tide. A pleasant autumn morning, little wind, and the sun still behind the hill. When we left on our 28th October session, I saw a length of rope about 3 inches diameter and decided to release it from its entanglement in tree roots. Been on the beach over a year, mostly covered with sand, but after recent strong winds is now just lying free. Its length, at 13.5 feet, too long for what I had initially in mind. To set it out on the sand in a sinuous form, I gathered brown stones to place vertically against each side and set the purple seaweed to radiate out from this form. It looked like a Chinese dragon, and the seaweed cast, shape left when the rope and stones were removed, was strong, length about 10 feet. Compton is a beach I have visited and used as a source of inspiration ever since coming to live on the Isle of Wight. 2nd of April, 1998. Compton AM with June. Cloudy with a hint of sun initially, and again as we departed, but in between pretty grey. I went intending to use a length of rail sleeper about 5 feet in length, which I spotted and is lying at the base of the steps down to the beach and near the limestone slabs. Found these to be also 4 inches wide and ideal for standing on edge, so I set up as a table a bit like a sculpture from some years ago. This time I tried to time it so that the sea would be in by the time the sculpture was complete and set up, and I waited for ages for this to happen. Finally, chilled and exhausted, I packed the camera away. And then I turned, and there it was, the sea swirling fully around the sculpture. It's always like this. The sea is quite perverse, almost as though it knows and plays games with you. No time, though, for an experiment with different placing of the stones and uprights. 3rd April, a bright and breezy morning before rain. I decided to develop one of the ideas from yesterday, but found that the timber had gone with the tide. I had thought I'd placed it high enough above the tide line, but there have been strong winds overnight. Thrown initially, and then it registered that I could use a slab of limestone instead. So I set up a similar arrangement to yesterday and used the same pair of stones on the table, but this time angling them up so that they were more dynamic, wedged up with the same wood as the base upright. Found the stability more of a problem today, not enough time spent on the foundations, and despite the sun, the light readings were low. Still, something done, and more could follow. Some reflections and observations on my time as an artist. 21st of May 1999. My exhibition at the Key Arts Centre Newport has been up for almost a week now. The gallery is full, not overcrowded, with the sculptures formally down the middle of the space and the videos just visible in the next door further room. The sounds from these are not as strong as I expected, providing a rumble in the background with occasional silence as each film moves on. The walls in each wing of the gallery are different in character. Seaweeds, clays, timbers, stones, ground, sea view, cliff sections. I come to view and consider the Fort Victoria work as feminine in both material and form, while Compton is masculine. Also, that the Fort Victoria imagery is more dreamlike, imaginary in a sense, whereas the Compton structures are read in terms of their setting, cliffs and sea, things perceived, and thus more of the real world. We've publicised the event as much as we can and have had a good response from friends, close to 200 visitors at the private view, but it's hard to get critical appraisal and wider acknowledgement. Whether I could cope with criticism is another matter. Maybe obscurity is better to live with, but it seems a lot of effort for little outcome. Where are the sales of the work? Can I expect, and is it reasonable to expect, any applause, possibly fame? I accept that exhibiting my work is necessary, fulfilling that of other half of the artist's task, showing and communicating through the work. But if no one comes, what then? I should be, maybe will have to be, content just to have got it together, for it to be looked at as a whole. After all, that's an effort and achievement worth celebrating in itself. 30th of May, 1999. On Friday, I gave a talk and slide presentation at the Quay about the work in my exhibition. The main issue thrown up by questions from the audience after the viewing of the slides seemed to be around the ephemeral nature of the beach work. To paraphrase the question and answers that they wanted were around, why don't you keep your sculptures, make them more permanent and so more accessible for others to see? I suppose my response is, and what I try to explain, is that since my work is and only exists there on the beach, and soon is destroyed by the waves and turn of the tide, it has no monetary or commercial value in itself. There's a purity about this which relates to the origins of environmental and land art, and of going outside the gallery system. It makes the documentary and fictional photographs of the works I take on the beach that aspect of the works that is the art. This is the element that has potential commercial value. I have always understood this implicitly, but not until now seen the difference so clearly before, that the issue of ephemerality is in a sense a stance against the accepted concepts of art, and in particular of sculpture as a permanent entity or object.